For centuries, humans had fought against the vampires, creatures of the night, fast and merciless. The war had nearly destroyed everything. Cities had fallen, lands had turned to wastelands, and people had been forced to live inside walled settlements controlled by the church. The only reason humanity survived was because of the priests, elite warriors trained by the church to fight vampires. They were faster, stronger, deadlier than normal men. But when the war ended, the church disbanded them, declaring the vampire threat over. But they were wrong. The desert stretched endlessly, the sun burning hot over the cracked earth. A lone rider on a motorcycle sped across the wasteland, pushing the machine to its limits. Lucy had been riding for hours, her heart pounding in her chest. She had to reach the city before it was too late. She arrived at the towering gates of Cathedral City, the stronghold of the church. Guards in armor blocked her path. "I need to see the priest," she said urgently. One of the guards frowned. The priests were disbanded. Lucy shook her head. "No, he's still here. Please, it's about my town. It's about my family." After a long pause, the guards finally let her through. Inside the city, Lucy rushed through the streets until she reached a small, dark chamber. A man sat alone in the shadows, his head lowered. He was older now, his face lined with years of battle. His robes were worn, his once great strength hidden beneath stillness. He had been cast aside by the church, left to live in silence. Lucy took a deep breath. "Priest, I need your help." His eyes opened, sharp as a blade. The priest studied Lucy. "Who are you?" "My name is Lucy. I'm from Augustine, a small town outside the city walls." Priest frowned. "That town is dangerous. The church forbids people from living beyond the walls." Lucy nodded. "I know, but we've been safe. Until now." She hesitated, then spoke the words she had come so far to say. "The vampires have returned." Priest's jaw tightened. "That's not possible. The war is over." "No," Lucy insisted. "They attacked our town. They took people. My brother Owen. I barely escaped." Priest stood slowly, his expression dark. He had spent years in exile, told the vampire threat was gone. But now this girl stood before him. Priest stared at Lucy, his mind racing. The church had sworn the vampires were gone. If they were wrong, then everyone outside the walls was in danger. Lucy's eyes were desperate. "You're the only one who can help me." Priest clenched his fists. The church had abandoned him, but that didn't matter. He had sworn an oath to protect people, and now a town needed saving. "I'll go," he said. Lucy let out a breath of relief. But before they could leave, the doors of the chamber burst open. 4 church clerics entered, their long robes flowing as they surrounded Priest. "You are forbidden from taking up arms," one of them said. "Your duty is to the church, not to old battles." Priest's eyes burned with defiance. "If the vampires have returned, we are all in danger." "The war is over," the cleric snapped. "If you defy the church, you will be branded a traitor." Priest looked at Lucy. Her town had no defenders. No one else would help them. He turned back to the cleric. "Then so be it." Before the guards could react, Priest moved. Fast. Too fast for human eyes. With a single strike, he knocked one to the ground. He grabbed another's weapon and swung it, forcing them back. In seconds, he had cleared a path. "Run!" he shouted. Lucy and Priest sprinted out of the chamber, racing toward the city gates. Behind them, alarms blared. The church had declared Priest an enemy. There was no turning back now. Priest and Lucy sped across the desert on a stolen motorcycle, the wind whipping around them. Lucy glanced at him. "You really left everything behind for this?" Priest kept his eyes on the road. "I left nothing behind. The church abandoned me long ago." For hours they rode through the wastelands, passing ruins of old cities. The world had never recovered from the vampire wars. By nightfall, they reached Augustine, or what was left of it. The town was in ruins, houses burned, streets covered in blood. Lucy gasped. "No!" Priest stepped forward, scanning the area. He could feel it, the presence of vampires. Then, from the shadows, something moved. A figure stepped into the moonlight. Tall, pale, its eyes glowed red. A vampire. And it wasn't alone. The vampires lunged. Priest moved first, faster than Lucy could see. He grabbed a broken wooden beam and swung it like a weapon, driving the first vampire back. Lucy pulled a knife from her belt, slashing at a second vampire. She had grown up hunting in the wasteland. She knew how to fight. More vampires appeared, their bodies sleek and deadly. They surrounded Priest and Lucy, circling like hungry wolves. Priest grabbed a silver cross from his belt and crushed it in his hand. The metal cracked, releasing a burst of energy. The vampires hissed and shrank back. But they didn't run. The lead vampire smirked. "You are strong, Priest, but you are alone." Priest's grip tightened. "Not alone." Lucy raised her weapon. "We're taking back my brother." The vampire's smile widened. "Then you will die trying." The battle had only just begun. The fight was brutal. Priest and Lucy held their ground, but the vampires were relentless. Then a horn sounded in the distance. The vampires froze. A large shadow moved through the ruined town. A figure in black armor stepped forward. His face was hidden beneath a dark helmet, his presence overwhelming. The leader of the vampires. Lucy's breath caught. "No!" Priest narrowed his eyes. "Who is he?" The figure removed his helmet. It was Owen, Lucy's brother. But he was no longer human. Lucy staggered back. "Owen, what happened to you?" Owen's eyes were cold. "I was given a gift." Priest stepped between them. "The vampires turned you." Owen smirked. "No, they saved me. The church left us to die, but the vampires offered me strength." Lucy shook her head. "No, this isn't you." Owen's expression darkened. "You don't understand, Lucy. The vampires aren't the enemy. The church is. They've lied to us all." Priest tightened his grip on his weapon. "We don't have time for this. Where are the missing townspeople?" Owen's smile returned. "Safe. And soon they'll be like me." Lucy's heart pounded. "No, we came to save them." Owen's expression softened for just a moment. "Go home, Lucy. This fight isn't yours." Lucy raised her weapon. "I'm not leaving without you." Owen sighed. "Then you leave me no choice." He gestured. The vampires surrounded them once more. Priest looked at Lucy. "Are you ready for this?" Lucy set her jaw. "I have to be." The battle for Augustine was about to begin. The vampires attacked. Priest moved like a shadow, striking with deadly precision. His fist shattered bone. His strikes sent the creatures flying. But there were too many. Lucy fought beside him, using speed over strength. She dodged, slashed, and stabbed, her survival instincts kicking in. But she wasn't trained for this. Owen watched them struggle, his expression unreadable. "You can't win," he said calmly. Priest blocked a vampire's claws with his forearm and drove a dagger into its chest. "We'll see about that." A vampire lunged at Lucy from behind. She turned too late. A flash of movement. Priest stepped between them, taking the blow. The vampire's claws tore into his side. Lucy screamed, "Priest!" Priest gritted his teeth and snapped the vampire's neck, pushing through the pain. Blood dripped down his robe, but he didn't stop fighting. Owen's eyes flickered with something. Hesitation. "Enough," Owen commanded. The vampires froze. Lucy gasped for breath. "Let us take the townspeople and leave." Owen looked at her sadly. "I can't." Priest straightened. "Then we'll take them by force." Owen's face darkened. "I was afraid you'd say that." He raised his hand. The ground trembled. A massive shape emerged from the ruins. A night beast. A monstrous vampire, unlike anything Lucy had ever seen. Its body was covered in thick armor-like skin, its glowing red eyes locked onto them. Priest exhaled. "This just got worse." The night beast roared. The sound shook the ground. Priest pushed Lucy behind him. "Stay back." Owen watched with quiet amusement. This is the future, priest. We are stronger. You are relics of a broken past. Priest tightened his grip on his weapon. We'll see. The night beast charged. Priest met it head on, rolling under its massive claws. He stabbed at its hide, but the blade barely pierced its thick skin. Lucy fired her gun, but the bullets bounced off. Nothing's working! Priest dodged another swipe, but the beast was too fast. A powerful blow sent him crashing through a broken wall. Lucy ran to him. We can't win this! Priest's breathing was labored, but his eyes burned with determination. We're not running. He looked at Owen. You can still stop this. Don't let them turn you into a monster. Owen hesitated. His fingers twitched. Then, the night beast roared again, charging at Lucy. Got it. Here's how the climax will unfold. As Priest and Lucy prepared for another attack, a deep horn echoed across the wasteland. From the distance, dark figures on motorcycles sped toward the ruins. Their armor gleamed under the moonlight, their long coats whipping in the wind. The church's hunters. They were elite warriors sent by the church to track down and eliminate anyone who defied their rule. And tonight, they had come for Priest. Lucy's breath caught. This isn't good. Priest clenched his jaw. They're not here to help us. The hunters skidded to a stop, surrounding them. Their leader, a tall man with cold eyes, stepped forward. Priest, he said, you are charged with treason against the church. Surrender now. Priest didn't move. If you're here, then you must have seen it. The leader narrowed his eyes. Seen what? Priest pointed to the bodies of the vampires still smoldering in the dust. The war isn't over. The vampires are back. A long silence followed. The hunters exchanged glances. Then, a monstrous roar shattered the air. From the ruins, more vampires emerged. Faster, stronger, hundreds of them. The hunters instantly drew their weapons. What is this? One of them whispered in horror. Priest's voice was grim. This is the truth the church has been ignoring. The vampires rushed forward. The battle had begun. Steel clashed against fangs. The hunters fought with terrifying efficiency, cutting down vampires with precise strikes. Priest fought beside them, his movements sharper than ever. Lucy fired her last bullets, then grabbed a fallen blade to keep fighting. The ground was soaked in blood, vampire and human alike. On a distant rooftop, Owen watched the battle unfold. He had underestimated Priest. He had underestimated the church's warriors. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. This wasn't just one man defying the vampires. This was a force to be reckoned with. A powerful force. He turned away from the fight, retreating into the shadows. He had seen enough. It was time to warn his lord. By dawn, the battle was over. The vampires had fled. The hunters, though wounded, still stood. Their leader turned to Priest. We came to capture you, but we saw the truth. Priest wiped blood from his blade. And what will you do with it? The leader hesitated. Then he stepped forward. We fight together. For the first time in years, Priest wasn't alone. But far away, in the darkest part of the wasteland, Owen knelt before his true master. A tall, ancient figure sat on a stone throne, his red eyes gleaming. Owen bowed his head. My lord, the priests are stronger than we thought. The vampire lord smiled. Then we will prepare for war. Priest and Lucy stood at the edge of the ruins, looking out at the horizon. Lucy sighed. This isn't over, is it? Priest shook his head. No, it's just beginning. For years, the world had believed the war was over. But now the truth was clear. A greater battle was coming. And this time, Priest would be ready. The hunters rode back to their hidden sanctuary, a massive underground fortress beneath the ruins of an old cathedral. There, the remaining priests were already gathering, sensing the storm that was coming. Priest stood before them, his wounds still fresh, his expression unreadable. The vampires are preparing for war, he said. This time they won't stop until the world belongs to them. The hunter's leader, Cain, stepped forward. Then we'll stop them, just like before. Priest shook his head. No, this time is different. Lucy frowned. How? Priest's eyes darkened. Because this time, they have something to prove. Far away, deep within the mountains, the vampire lord seethed with fury. He sat on his throne, his sharp fingers gripping the stone armrests. His red eyes burned with hatred. For centuries, the priests had been a thorn in his side. Again and again, they had cut down his armies, burned his cities, slaughtered his kind. But this time, he would not lose. He turned to Owen, his new general. Summon the rest of our kind, the vampire lord commanded. We march at nightfall. Owen hesitated. My lord, the priests. The vampire lord rose to his feet, his presence overwhelming. The priests have taken much from me, he growled. This time I will take everything from them. Owen bowed. Yes, my lord. As he left the chamber, he glanced at the horizon. The final war had begun. The priest stood atop the ruined city walls, watching the horizon. The sun was setting. Priest felt it before he saw it. The ground trembled. The wind grew colder. The sky darkened. Then, in the distance, they came. A vast army of vampires, moving like a shadow across the land. Their numbers were greater than ever before. The hunters gripped their weapons. Lucy swallowed hard. Cain muttered, There's so many. Priest stepped forward. His voice was calm, steady. We have fought them before. He turned to his soldiers. We have beaten them before. He raised his blade, his eyes burning with determination. And we will beat them again. The priests roared in response. The battle had begun. The vampires struck first. They moved like demons, scaling the walls, tearing through stone and steel. But the priests were ready. Silver bullets tore through vampire flesh. Blades flashed, cutting them down. Explosions rocked the battlefield as the hunters unleashed their deadliest weapons. For hours, the battle raged. Priest fought at the front, cutting down every vampire in his path. Lucy fought beside him, proving herself in battle. Cain led the charge from above, commanding the hunters with brutal precision. And yet the vampires kept coming. Then, the vampire lord himself entered the battlefield. His presence alone sent a shockwave through the air. The ground cracked beneath his feet. The remaining vampires rallied around him, their strength renewed. He raised his hands, and darkness surged from his body like a storm. Priest's heart pounded. This was it, the final fight. The vampire lord moved like a nightmare, tearing through the priest with inhuman strength. He reached Cain first, grabbing him by the throat and throwing him into a ruined tower. Priest rushed forward, his blade meeting the vampire lord's claws. Steel clashed against darkness. The two warriors fought, neither giving an inch. You cannot win, the vampire lord snarled. You never could. Priest gritted his teeth. That's funny. You're the one losing. He struck hard. His blade sliced through the vampire lord's chest. The creature roared in pain, stumbling back. For the first time in centuries, he felt fear. But he wasn't done yet. He lunged, aiming straight for Lucy. Priest moved faster than he ever had before. With one final mortal strike, he drove his blade into the vampire lord's heart. The monster froze. His red eyes widened. No, he whispered. Then his body burst into dust. The battlefield fell silent. The priest had won. By morning, the battlefield was quiet. The remaining vampires had fled. Their leader was gone. The war was over. Lucy looked at Priest. We did it. Priest didn't smile. He just stared at the rising sun. For now. Cain limped toward them, shaking his head. The church will still want your head, you know. Priest nodded. Let them try. Lucy smirked. So, what now? Priest looked at the ruins of the battlefield, then at the warriors who had survived. The world still needs protecting, he said, and we're the only ones who can do it. Cain sighed. I had a feeling you'd say that. As the sun rose, the priests stood together, ready for whatever came next. They had won this war, but they knew another would come, and when it did, they would be ready. The end. For more of this, please subscribe, like, and put on the notification button.